By July 1945, the guns in Europe had finally fallen silent. But in the Pacific, the conflict was entering its most violent phase yet, with no clear end in sight. Allied military planners were staring at a terrifying mathematical reality. The Japanese forces remained heavily entrenched, and a full-scale ground invasion of the home islands was projected to cost hundreds of thousands of American lives. While negotiating the post-war order in Potsdam, President Harry Truman received a secret briefing from Secretary of War Henry Stimson. He learned millions had been funneled into a highly classified project, one that just successfully detonated a nuclear core in the New Mexico desert. At this stage, Truman viewed the technology as a strictly tactical asset. In the eyes of the American leadership, this was a larger, highly efficient explosive designed to shatter the Japanese will to fight. The decision to deploy it was a cold, pragmatic calculation. Leadership believed the bomb would force a sudden surrender, sparing millions of soldiers from a prolonged, bloody invasion. But proving the physics in the desert was only half the battle. The military possessed two entirely different designs for the weapon, and delivering them to a target 5,000 miles away had never been tested. This diagram compares the two distinct mechanisms. On the left is the gun-type device, which triggered its reaction by firing one piece of uranium directly into another. On the right is the design proven at the Trinity test, a complex implosion mechanism that triggered a blast by rapidly compressing a plutonium core from all sides. Housing these volatile reactions required heavy exterior shells. The resulting bombs were enormous, weighing several tons, making them far too large for standard aircraft to carry over long distances. The logistical answer was the B-29 Superfortress. Its pressurized cabin allowed it to fly at high altitudes to evade Japanese fighters, and its massive lift capacity meant it could carry the device and still maintain the speed needed to escape the shockwave. To measure the true destructive capacity of these weapons, planners required a specific type of target. They needed a city that had escaped previous firebombings, featuring a dense mixture of military infrastructure and civilian housing to act as a scientific canvas. Hiroshima was chosen as the primary target because it fit these clinical requirements. It offered a clean laboratory for measuring the maximum devastation of a single nuclear device in a real-world environment. On the morning of August 6, 1945, the Enola Gay flew 30,000 feet above Hiroshima carrying this exact device, Little Boy. After falling for 43 seconds, the bomb detonated in the air. People on the ground experienced a blinding flash, followed by an eviscerating wall of heat. Trailing right behind the heat was a catastrophic pressure wave that leveled buildings for miles. The results of this single explosion were catastrophic. Up to 80,000 people died within seconds, and 2/3 of Hiroshima's infrastructure was completely flattened. As survivors pulled themselves from the rubble, a strange, terrifying phenomenon began to emerge. People who had escaped the immediate blast were rapidly falling ill and dying from mysterious symptoms that doctors had never seen before. This was atomic sickness, the horrific effects of severe radiation poisoning. The device had proven to be more than a simple explosive. It was a lingering biological killer that destroyed human bodies long after the smoke had cleared. The Japanese leadership was still struggling to comprehend the devastation in Hiroshima when the American military pushed forward. Just 3 days later, they launched a second strike. The intended target was Kakura, but heavy clouds obscured the city. Running low on fuel, the crew of Boxcar diverted to Nagasaki, manually dropping the Fat Man device through a tiny gap in the weather. On that exact same day, an entirely different disaster arrived from the north. The Soviet Union declared war and launched a massive armored invasion into Manchuria. By August 9th, Japan was caught in a vice. They were facing an apocalyptic threat from the sky and a massive mechanized Soviet army tearing through their ground defenses. The dual shock finally broke the military stalemate. On August 15, 1945, Japan agreed to the Allies' demands for unconditional surrender. They secured a single concession to maintain their cultural continuity. Emperor Hirohito would be permitted to remain on his throne. The deadliest conflict in human history was brought to a close on the deck of the USS Missouri. But in Washington, the reality of the bomb was sinking in. When President Truman reviewed the reports detailing the horrific, lingering civilian toll in Nagasaki, his perspective changed. He immediately issued a historic order stripping the military of its authority to use atomic weapons. He declared that no further bombs could be dropped without his explicit personal instruction. This command established a new hierarchy for the nuclear age. The weapon was now distinct from the rest of the arsenal, moving the power to end civilization away from the battlefield and exclusively into the hands of the president. The end of the Second World War led directly into the global tension of the Cold War, sparking an arms race that defined the next half-century. The trauma of the bombings left a permanent mark on Japan. Today, as the only nation to ever suffer a nuclear attack, they remain a strictly anti-nuclear state, refusing to produce or possess the weapons that destroyed their cities. The atomic bomb achieved its brutal purpose in 1945. But its lasting legacy was forcing all of humanity to live forever under its terrifying shadow.